Hello everyone, I'm Colin Canet. Today I'm going to show you a few clamping tips and tricks that I've used over the years, so let's get started. So I'm just getting ready to do some glue ups. There's my boards there, but some of you who are new here won't have seen this, and I'm just going to take a minute to show you. This is a Vblock system that I developed, a few years ago now, and if you go to Woodwork Web, you'll be able to look it up and see how I created it. And basically, this piece of wood here and this piece of wood here are identical because I cut them both on the table saw at the same angles, and these aren't I cut these at different lengths because I have wood, of course, at different lengths, and the whole purpose of this is just so that it keeps the my bars upright so they don't fall over. So you can check into that. Now, those of you with the sharp eyes will have noticed I've got something around my bars here. But before I get to that, I want to show you that sometimes, and some people use this all the time, once in a while I use these little strips. And the purpose of the strips is to elevate my wood off of these bars. And you never want the bars, you never want the wood and the glue to touch these bars because it creates a reaction on the wood and it will give you black spots when you take the bars off. So you want to do something to elevate that. Now, later on, after I was using these, I discovered one day when I was doing some plumbing that you can get this foam stuff, and it actually fits over. There's different sizes, and it actually fits over, and I really like it because it's handy. I can move it around, take it off, and it actually kind of grips it. So I use this stuff from time to time, and it's really easy to cut. It's very inexpensive as well. I just use scissors. You know, when I first started using this, they didn't even have this. Now they've got this glue, sticky glue thing going on, which is no good to me. But yeah, I just rub it on that. And now the purpose of this, of course, is to put this around plumbing pipes and glue it together so it insulates the pipes. But I use it for different things. And of course, you can make them bigger or smaller, whatever you want to do, whatever fits your need. And there, that one's stuck together, but there you go, and then you can see that. Now, I'm going to show you something else here. Here's what I really like about this over the wood strips. So check this out. This is a bit of glue, just ordinary glue that I use for gluing. But look at, this is what I like about this stuff and why I've gone to this foam, because the glue doesn't even stick to it. It just peels right off of it. And that's, of course, the problem with wooden sticks is depending on where it is, sometimes they move around and they actually end up getting glued to my board. So just a little trick you might want to try sometime. Now here's another trick that I used to use. I don't use anymore, but I did at one time use that. And that's using this angle iron. And the angle iron, very often, what I find is I always seem to line up the middle of my boards, and what happens is the ends sometimes get like this. And there's a variety of ways of clamping these things together, and one of the ways that I've used in the past is using angle iron and clamping them down right on the edges, and it's easy to get a clamp in on these, and it's nice and straight and flat. Now you need to make sure that you're not getting this iron in contact with any glue that's on your surfaces, because you'll still get those iron spots. I've tried aluminum, and I'll tell you my problems with aluminum. I found that the aluminum bent, so I wasn't happy with it. But I'll tell you another trick that a friend of mine told me about, and I haven't used it. But this angle iron that I'm using, you can find this in bed frames, old bed frames, and they're usually coated with a very hard coating. You can get them for free. They're very, very hard steel. They're hardened steel on a bed frame. Most of the ones I've seen are painted brown. They repel glue perfectly. As I say, you can often get them for free because people throw the stuff out. The only problem is it's very, very hard to cut. Do not try and take your hacksaw over and cut it. You will need to have a grinder. You'll need to cut the length with a grinder or with a carbide tip reciprocating saw. Blade in your reciprocating saw. But that's another thing that you can do, is just clamping these down to get a good get your ends nice, because I always line up the middle first because that's the hardest, and then the ends can go astray. So a good quick way of keeping your ends nice and flat. Not long ago, somebody asked me what I do for fastening strips of wood, say onto plywood or other pieces of wood. Sometimes it's the edge pieces that I'm doing, and it depends on what I'm doing. I almost always will glue it, and then sometimes I'll use my 23 gauge pinner. That does a good job, but depending on the wood, sometimes you can still see those pins. But the other thing that works really well is just clamping, and I don't have any three-way clamps that go like that and then sort of on top. But I have another system that works just as well. And honestly, you can use just about any clamp. And some of these clamps, depending on the jaws that I have, I'll actually double side tape some of this non-skid material to it. But basically what you do is you just put that on and make it a little bit of a gap to where that wood is. And you can use different clamps. You know, honestly, you can use those quick release clamps. You can use C clamps. Often I use these, and any one of them work just fine. Just tighten them on there, and you just leave a little bit of a gap. And then what you do, because you've already pre-glued this, is stick some wedges in there, and you just sort of tap those in. They don't need to be super tight, and anywhere along there. I don't know if that one's not quite low enough, but anyway, you get the idea. And same with that one. It's a little bit high, but easy to lower down. Let's get that one a little lower, and you can actually use two clamps. You can double wedge them. Actually, it's actually best if you double wedge them. If you just put it in one side, sometimes the wedge will come out, unless they're really thin like this one. But anyway, that's what I do, is just clamp them down like that, and it's unbelievable. You don't need fancy clamps. You wouldn't believe how firm that is down. If you had that glued, that would work really well. And here's a couple more clamping aids that I use from time to time. These are called I-beams. And of course, you can see that they're just recycled 3/4 inch plywood that somebody gave me. It was good quality plywood, and it was perfect for making this because they're nice and straight and even. And where I use them is for putting together, when you're doing cabinetry and you need to get underneath something, like you've got a base and you've got uprights and you need to get together and clamp things like that, this is where these come in handy. Now, in the past, what I used for this to do some elevating was just simply a 2x4, and you know what, that worked fine. But what I find with this, from time to time, I'm doing things that are moving or that I need to keep structurally sound somewhere, and the nice thing with this is I can clamp right to these so that I can put a clamp right on there, and it's nice and solid then, which I couldn't do with a 2x4 laying on the bench. So just something that you might want to think about sometime. If you don't have anything to do and you've got some spare wood, a couple of I-beams will come in handy at some point in your clamping process. Well, that concludes my video for today. Just a few more ideas to help you out next time you're in the workshop and you're doing some clamping. Maybe you'll think about some of the ideas that I've given you. I'm Colin Canet for Woodwork Web. Thanks for watching.